Thanks, Roland. It's a pleasure to be here to talk to you about what's really the greater context behind Steem. Good afternoon, everybody, and good morning to those that are watching with the live stream from North America. So, the greater context of what is going on behind Steem is that we are really in the early formation days of what I call the crypto tech economy, which is not unlike the web economy in terms of what has happened in the last 22 years with innovation and with wealth creation. So if you think about what the web has given us the last 22 years, we are now in the first early days of a potentially very similar phenomena that might be bigger than what we have seen so far. Some of you know me as the author of a book called The Business Blockchain, and I'm going to give away one copy of my book, that's the only one I brought in, to the best question that comes in afterwards. So we'll see who that lucky person will be. I'm also a blogger. Some of you know me from blogging. I've been blogging about the topic for the last 3.5 years, probably as long as longer than most people, at least out there. And I'm also an advisor to a number of companies in the space, including the Ethereum Foundation, Block, the Coin Center, and Steem, obviously. So I'm very happy and very pleased to be here talking to you about the future, the way I see it. So this new context that we have to think about is the crypto economy that is going to be bigger, in my opinion, than the web economy. Those of you that are currently involved in Steem, I don't have to tell you, and you know it very well, how you are benefiting from it. But there aren't enough of us. Imagine if those of us that are here and in the community around the world, maybe in the hundreds and the thousands, imagine if that community was now into the millions. What would happen? And that's really the goals that we have to think about going forward. What is really happening, to put this in context, this is really the beginning of a new phase of the web. If you think about what has happened the last 22 years, what has the web given us really? The web has given us 4 different key elements. First of all, it was a great communications platform because of email. That was one of the first applications of the web. Then it became a publishing platform. Everybody became a publisher. Then we got into e-commerce. We could buy and sell anything around the world. Now e-commerce is $1.3 trillion. And recently, social web with Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and everything social were the last few years of the web. But going forward, we're going to see now a new way to pass flow between us in a peer-to-peer manner. So this is really the decentralization of trust that is allowing this. And Steem is really in the middle of it. I've been obsessed about trying to explain the blockchain, and that is why I wrote the book. But nowadays, I don't try to explain it anymore. What I try to do instead is to help people understand how to think about the blockchain. I think it's more important to know how to think about it in ways that are very expansive, because the blockchain is more than one thing. So I started to put together this framework recently, and the way I like to have people think about the blockchain is in 4 different buckets. First, as a development platform. Number 2, as a utility, as a marketplace, and as a trust layer. So where do you think Steem plays in when you think about these 4 buckets? Mostly. All of them, exactly. All of them. And each one of them, I gave 3 bullets for each one of them. So as a development platform, it's about programming value, programming money, dealing with ledgers. Utility is about moving assets, storing assets. It's about a marketplace. That is the most visible thing right now. Steem and Steemit are a marketplace, a new emerging marketplace. And it's also a trust layer. So that's how to think about the blockchain, and that's how we can think about Steem in the long term. And in my work, I'm very involved in large companies and small companies because I talk to startups all the time, and I talk to big companies all the time. So I get to see the market from both sides. And what I see here is 2 different ways to approach the blockchain. And we shouldn't confuse the 2. The big companies mostly what they do is they want to support their existing models. So when you hear a large bank or a large institution trying to work with the blockchain, they don't want to disrupt themselves. Big companies want to improve themselves. So they use the blockchain to support their existing models. And there are a number of activities there. But the other side of the equation is the startups. And these companies really are more interested in creating new business models, whether it is in the public sense or in a private sense as well. And this is the bucket that is in the top there, and that is where I placed SteemIt. There are other examples. I'm just giving you here some sample of some companies that are involved in this classification. I personally am the most excited about that segment at the top, because there we are doing this in the public sense. It means that the number of users are in the millions, potentially, and that it's really about the creation of new business models, because that's where a lot of the wealth creation happens, when you are trying to create something new and not just build on something that already existed. What is really happening fundamentally is that we are changing the work to value equation. The way we get compensated from doing some work is now changing. So the nature of work is changing. And there's a relationship between this work and this value. And the way that we are quantifying this value is now via tokens, via cryptocurrency. And there's a variety of work that can happen. And the tokens are really in the middle of this, but there are many ways of using the tokens. If you think about it, the token could be really the key part that powers a protocol. So what are some examples of that, where the token is really part of the protocol? Bitcoin and Ethereum, for example. That is really, they are part of the protocol, and then that's what happens after is a result of that. Second way of using tokens is where the tokens are part of the model or the function or the market itself. And that is the example that I put Steem into. Because the blockchain is not really at the forefront of Steem, it's really in the background. It is very important, but for the users, some users don't even know there's a blockchain. And that is the greatest thing that you can have, because to make this thing go into millions of users, they don't need to know there is a blockchain. In the same way that we don't need to know there is a database behind any application that we use. What is most important is the application itself. And then there will be another segmentation of tokens that are based on an existing business. So these are big companies that are existing today. I get many inquiries and calls from big companies that have an existing business, and they say, well, how do I use this token thing? How can I spin my own cryptocurrency? So we haven't seen too many of those yet, but we're going to see gradually, perhaps starting with the loyalty programs, loyalty points, coming into some form of cryptocurrency. And that's where it's going in terms of the different usages. This is something I say, and I borrowed Yogi Berra. Yogi Berra was a famous American baseball player and coach, and when they asked him what his wisdom was about baseball, and he said, baseball is 90% mental, and the other half is physical. So this is not a typo in kind of calculations, but the blockchain is really 90% governance and business models. And Steem has done a really good job at figuring this out from the early days. Some other companies are still struggling with getting the right governance and the right business model figured out. The technology is going to take care of itself. And in some cases, the technology is not perfect, it's still evolving, but that's okay. If you can nail down the business model and the way the governance is done, which in my opinion, Steem has done from day one, I think the rest will be very easy to grow. So the theory of the circular economy is as follows, if you follow the circle. So what happens is that we do some kind of work, and there's a variety of work that we can do, whether it's voting a piece of content, or whether it's promoting something specifically, or if it's, and this is in the context of publishing specifically, but there are other ways of doing work. It could be passive, it could be active, and I'm going to give you some examples on the next slide. But the key important thing is that the work has to generate value. The action itself of the work, if it doesn't generate value, it is not going to have a long-lasting effect on the marketplace that you are participating in. So you generate value, you are rewarded by tokens, then you can spend these tokens internally, and then you can then also exchange these tokens externally, and then so there is an external market relationship and there is an internal market relationship. Of all of these boxes, which are the two that are the most important in terms of the relationship between one and the other that you can think about? Between what and what box is the most critical part of this slide? Yes. Yes, close. What I like to say is that the earning, which is tied into generating value, the earning and the spending have to be very kind of working hand in hand. So there has to be activity on both sides. There has to be as much excitement in earning as there is excitement and possibilities in spending. Because if there is no spending and earning in the same way, in the same frequency, then there's nothing out there. There's no economy. If there's no transactional variety, transactional activity, there's no economy. Think about the real world we're in. We get a salary, we put some money in the bank, some money in our pocket, and we go and spend it. And sometimes we earn it back, and then we spend it again. But that's what makes the economies work. So whether it's the Steam economy or any other, there has to be this movement of transactions. And keep that in mind, no matter what you are doing. The transaction vibrancy is very important. 2 years ago, I put together this slide. It's a bit complicated, but this is as a result of looking at what Dan Larimer and Vitalik Buterin had talked about in the area of distributed autonomous organizations. What was missing when I was reading their work is to put a framework behind it. They had the greatest vision, but I was looking at it from an implementation point of view. So how do we make this happen? And what you see there is not always visible. There's lots of work behind the scenes. The blockchains themselves do a lot of work, but then for the users, they look at the stake and they look maybe at the value. So again, the relationship between the earning and the spending are very important. So I'd like to see more variety in the earning aspects. And it is not, the earning is not just by publishing something or by voting and upvoting something else. There has to be more variety. Maybe in getting data, giving data. Like now on the web, we all have data that is with us, accompanying us because we are doing some work, we are doing some activities that have value. So in the future, we should be getting paid for our data. It's going to be like, please take my data, please, and give me some tokens. If you think about it, Facebook, for example, Facebook is monetizing what? Our attention. But we don't get anything back in return. If Facebook was started in a decentralized fashion, we should all be compensated for a fraction, for a part of the attention that we are giving them because they are getting paid for advertising dollars based on what, because we are there. Another example, a company called Lazuz, which was doing an Uber-like service. And if you download the app and if you're just driving, you're giving them data. And you earn Zeus points by just giving them data because the data they have about you is your driving patterns and maybe traffic patterns. And then the next week, maybe you want to take a ride, and then you're spending those Zeus points in another way. So there is an earning and a spending at the same time. And we need to see more examples of that. I come short when I try to explain this because there's maybe 5 or 6 ways that I can think about. But I'd like to see many more of these kinds of works. It could be bounty. It could be real work, development program. You're getting paid in Steam. You came here. Some of you got Steam Power dollars because you came here and you were rewarded. And we should see more of that. So the tokens are just a means to an end. Keep that in mind. They are just a function of the vibrancy of the marketplace. And we should be focused on that because that is the outcome. What this is changing as well is the way companies are created. And if this is the life cycle of creation of companies where you develop, you launch, and then you grow, the token can come at any point in time. In the case of Steam, it was done at the same time as the launch happened. In some other companies, they raised the token before the launch, like Ethereum at the time of development and some other ICOs that I hear about today. So the token can happen at any time. And sometimes they get venture money, and then they launch a token afterwards in the growth phase. So the tokens are not coming everywhere in the cycle of business development, of a business life cycle of a company. And the tokens are also disrupting venture capital the way we know it. Because some companies are challenging now the traditional venture capital funding model and saying, well, maybe we don't need venture capital. We can just spin a token and then see what happens. The next phase of the blockchain is really about the business and business innovation, business disruption, business models, business ideas, and not just about technology. The last 5 years, the headlines were about technology, but we have to move beyond that. And I'm very encouraged by the fact that the Steem ecosystem is very vibrant. And the most important thing that Steem has today is its ecosystem. That is really what is going to make the value greater. I was quite involved with the Ethereum ecosystem, and the reason why Ethereum is very strong today is because of the strength of its ecosystem. And at the heart of that, it starts with the number of developers. That is why I asked the question, how many developers are there? And there should be more than 100, more than a few hundred. There should be hundreds and thousands of Steem developers. How many of you are Steem developers right now in the room? You know, I want to ask you a favor. Can you clone yourselves by 10 times by next week, for example? I mean, imagine if there were more developers. We need more users. We need more transaction activity, more application variety. I love to go to Steem Tools and see more and more applications. And then there could be 300 by the time we have the next conference. We need new ideas, and we need the brand to be very strong. So I'm also hoping that also Steem Inc. works on improving the marketing and growing the brand, because once the brand is out there, that has value as well for everybody. Thank you very much.
I think we have time for one or two questions. Two questions.
Hello. My question is, please can I have the book? Because I'll give you my word, I'll read it from start to finish, and I will apply what I learn.
You want a book, I can tell.
I wanted a book. No, I want a book.
Can I have the book is my question.
I want a book. I want a book.
What emerging secondary technology do you think that blockchain will exploit, or that will exploit blockchain? Like, do you think it'll be, you know, AI or machine learning or some other emerging technology?
That's a good question. There's lots of talk about AI and machine learning. I cannot think of any particular one in specifically. I mean, obviously, the field of cryptocurrency, we haven't figured out all of the difficult challenges of how to apply cryptocurrency to business. So there are still some unknown questions. So I think we want to be a little bit more mature in the field of cryptocurrency, which is still the basic element of blockchains. And the next phase is not just about technology. Again, I want to repeat what I just said earlier, which is the innovations will come from business model innovations, from how to put this into applications. The reason why the web is where it is today is because of the creativity of the entrepreneurs out there that have dreamt up of all of the different ways to apply the technology. And that the technology itself will continue to evolve. So I'm not worried about the technology at this point.
Thank you.
I know that you're probably really busy, but are you available, I don't know, to ask questions or something like that? I mean, outside of SteemFest because I am part of like maybe 2, 3, 4. I kind of lost count startups that are doing what you are talking about, and probably being able to use your expertise and well. Could I probably get a card or something like that afterwards?
Yeah, I mean, email me. I answer all my emails. My email is very visible. It's wmougayar. It's the same as my Steem name @gmail.com.
Okay. I'll probably ask you a comments in your Steam posts or something.
Or on Steam. I'm very open. I like to interact with anybody. So.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
As long as you don't insult me.
And actually, I probably advise all the people who are doing stuff with Steam, well, maybe to interact with you. Thanks.
Thank you.
I wanted to make jokes about you getting more people into one room, or getting more rooms. You guys should get a room together as well. Thank you, William, for this wonderful talk.
So who should I give the book to?
Well, that's up to you. Oh, yeah. Okay.
Thank you. I'll sign it after.
Yes.
Quick one, okay.
Because I also heard a lot of people talk about this, and for me also it's interesting to know what your thoughts are on the quality quantity. So the more users there are going to be, what happens to the value and the quality of content? Because I think some people are worried, that this just amazing content of people and this just room of entrepreneurial people and creatives, creators, innovative people, that it kind of goes down, when we get more and more people in.
Well, I'm not worried about that, because if you look at what happened, usually the quality stuff rises to the top. Look at what happens on Reddit, for example. I don't know how much bigger than Steam Reddit is, but it's many times bigger, and then the good stuff rises to the top. So if anything, yes, we need to have more quantity. And as some of you have experienced, when you get the right people upvoting you, you can do well, but we need more of that, but we have to distribute that. So I think we're in the early stages. We need more. We need more quantity of users and of content. I'm not worried about that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks again, William.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, I want to